Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Breaking Through the Noise. I'm Doug Goodwin. I'm your host. This is a weekly podcast put on by Ulimi. Ulimi, we make smart software for the future of work. So for everybody who's dialed in, you please feel free to use the chat room, ask any questions you want. Also, I suggest posting your LinkedIn profile so people can network and get to know you. That's what this show is all about. It's making connections and sharing information and building our networks. So this week we have a sponsor. It is VidExpo, an exciting and innovative new solution to take your trade show to your audience. We're going to learn more about VidExpo later in the show, but first we have news from the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce with two guests, Beth Davisson, a Director of Workforce Development, and then Harper Smith, who is the Manager of the Workforce Center. So first up, we have Beth. Welcome to the show, Beth.
Thank you, Doug. I'm so glad to be on Through the Noise and happy to be here and have a conversation with you on workforce today.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time. Now, I did want to share something. I was out and about in Northern Kentucky over the weekend, and something I couldn't help notice, but there were help wanted signs going up in storefronts again. I can't help but think that that's actually a good sign.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think we have I hope a lot to be optimistic for. We look at, the economic forecast of what's ahead, and both the pessimistic and the optimistic models show us that we're in for about a 3-quarter recession that has already begun. And so that's something to keep in mind, that while we are indeed in for a recession, it should be short-lived, and Kentucky should be coming out of this pretty strong.
That's great news. So if we're probably in Q1 of that now, we're talking about early 2021 perhaps?
Yeah, that's right. And it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. I think it's important to note, we have gotten hit in Kentucky, and we'll talk a little bit about how specifically we've been hit in ways that are important and have been hard. And at the same time, even I think it was day 2 of lockdown, early mid-March, as schools had closed that Tuesday at the Kentucky Chamber, we saw 14,000 Kentuckians lose their jobs that day. And we just fell over sick. And so we launched the Who's Hiring campaign. And I know we'll talk about that some more, but we understood that some industries were actually still surging economically. And we thought, well, let's post a website. Let's try to collect as many jobs as possible and see, if we can help some Kentuckians land back on their feet. And I thought we would get a couple thousand positions on there, but we've actually gotten closer to 80,000 positions. And it's hard to remember that just not too long ago, we were booming. And a lot of businesses could not find talent. And so, that's a lot I hope we can unpack as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. And like you said, it was literally 3 months ago, and I was in a meeting and we were talking about how people couldn't find work. And, we're all about the future of work. So we're trying to help come up with solutions. And I just can't. Yes, this collapsed really fast. This was a once in a century, I hope, scenario. It's going to bounce back, and hopefully it'll bounce back fast. I don't think it's going to be 2 months, but maybe it can be 6 months.
Yeah, and I think back in 2008, so many of us just still have PTSD from that recession. It was awful, and so. We're not too far away from that. So I think it's easy to go back to what and think, are we hunkering down for this deep, very, very long, painful recession of our last Great Recession? And I think the signals look to that to be no. And no matter how things shake out, we really have to think about, as a state, what we want to look like from a workforce and economic perspective in 3 months. So we don't want to hunker down in 2008 like we did, and then come out on the other side where, 5-10 years later, our employers are looking around saying, well, where's all of our talent? Right. When I keep asking, how often were we intentional about coming out of that recession and skilling up Kentuckians in the ways that we really need? And there's so many ways. Even the pandemic has left very particular target audiences and specific populations behind.
Yep.
And those are the populations that we continue to leave behind. Kentucky is number one in the country for unemployment claims and vulnerable jobs.
Right.
And so that's something we're really keeping an eye out. I don't know if you've kind of seen any of that, but that's data that we're really curious in targeting those populations.
Yeah, and so you're talking about populations that are on the edge to begin with, and you get into a strained situation like this economically, they virtually have no chance.
And it's unfortunate. In Kentucky, that's exactly right, Doug. And we kind of continue to leave specific populations behind. So populations without higher education attainment levels, so under a bachelor's degree, are young, so under 35, minority populations, and women. So statistically, pandemic or not, that's who we tend to leave behind. And that's a lot of our workforce. And then we saw coming into COVID, when Kentucky hit that number one spot for the most unemployment claims, over 700,000 in the country, and the most vulnerable jobs. Those vulnerable jobs are jobs that might not or are likely not to come back. And what that means is those populations, again, are the ones that are susceptible to that job loss. So minorities, women, under 35, and lower education attainment populations. And so I think, again, you go back to what do we want to be coming out of this? We're going after gusto to those populations to help make sure that they get upskilled and they get the jobs and the career fields and pathways that they really need and deserve in Kentucky.
So, and then last week I had somebody from Kevin Harrison from Workforce Development at KCTCS, actually Ashland College, and we were talking about all the programs they have. Are you guys working with KCTCS, or who are you working with to give people that avenue to go from being somebody who doesn't have valuable skills to being? I mean, he was telling me about some of the programs they have. Literally, the day the person gets their certificate, they start work the next day because they've already got a job before they're finished. So
Kentucky has an amazing community college system. KCTCS is in my mind top notch. I'm a product of KCTCS campus myself. So of course I'm biased, but I really do think a lot of them. We do have a program with them. So what we maintain out of the Kentucky Chamber is that if you want a healthy and thriving workforce, build them up in the way that the economy needs. And that's what we focus on through our talent pipeline management program. So we do very specific data collection and feedback signals from employers of what those critical jobs are and where they're in the future, what they're going to need. So as technology is getting disrupted and changing the way we work, we're looking at future forecasts of employers directly. They're in these groups feeding that data and making decisions. And so we actually just opened up this system to now include KCTCS team members. And we're in the middle of training about 40 of their staff members across the state in this system. So they're under the hood with us, building these pipelines based on the employer signal.
So if you're a citizen of Kentucky and you can go in and you can, do they have access to this data?
Yes, we are open source for it. We always share it in aggregate form. We don't have it on a website yet, but it will be coming on. We're working with KY Stats, our state government data source, to make that a public resource, but it is available to anyone in aggregate form.
So if you're someone, whether you're maybe a young person or just somebody who's underemployed or struggling, or maybe you're ready to take a step up, they'll be able to come there, look through jobs, look through careers, and kind of say, hey, this might be for me. And then sounds like they are some connection where they can find, okay, how do I get trained for this and actually go do it and maybe come out 16 weeks later or 18 months later or whatever, and they've got a career versus just hopefully a paycheck.
That's exactly it. I should hire you to do our marketing. That is exactly it. They're building those pipelines so that any learner or worker, no matter where they are in their phase of their career, can enter the pipeline, a pipeline that has a career pathway associated with it, gainful employment associated with it, and they can enter into those pathways that economically Kentucky just really, really needs.
Well, and it's interesting because Kentucky needs so many industries, like manufacturing in particular, advanced manufacturing, and I'm hearing that welders are bringing down $100,000 plus salaries these days, and that's amazing. I mean, and I think if we just go back just a few years ago, if you told a 17-year-old, hey, why don't you look at welding as a career, they would probably just be aghast. And then you say, well, you can make $100,000. That might change your ideas about it a little bit.
Completely. I mean, so that's an amazing example is we had construction. So we have a group of employers in central Kentucky that are in construction industry. And these construction leaders are saying in the next 2 years, they need several hundred electricians. Talk about a 6-figure salary and no college debt. And what the employers did through this pipeline management system is they figured out their highest performing talent statistically, once on the job, comes right out of high school. So if they can, and they're pulling from specific high schools now and building this pipeline for our youth that have the aptitude to go into the electrician pathway and start that process of being on a journey to making $100,000 in a career that is not going to go away and is going to have increasing demand.
Well, in a career, they can also start their own businesses, and there's a lot of opportunities there to be an entrepreneur if you've got those kind of skills. So, I think that's exciting stuff. So just 3 months ago, kind of going back, like I said, we kind of circling back, we were talking about like we couldn't find enough people, and now we've got things going in the pipeline. One of the audiences that you didn't bring up, and I know it's passionate for both of us, is the second chance employee. I know that a lot of companies kind of push back on that. But I just remember when we were back and we didn't have employees, nobody could find anybody. It just seemed like, there they were, Is there any opportunity to get some of these folks kind of back into the workforce and give them a chance to, give them a second chance?
Yeah, it's not just an opportunity, it's a necessity. And I know Harper's going to talk about our second chance hiring program. And so I'll open that up a little bit now. So in Kentucky, go back again, 3 short months ago, we were in a booming economy. 82% of Kentucky businesses were saying they were looking for some sort of short to long-term growth. 84% of Kentucky businesses were ready for that growth, but couldn't find the talent they needed. Didn't take into effect the billions of dollars we brought in new economic development companies and jobs coming into the state, right? Those are just all compacting jobs that we're not, like every other state in our country, ready for. And so when you look at that, you have to have, and always should have, an all hands on deck mentality. So take that's one picture, right? Not enough workers, way too many jobs. We've got an aging workforce. We've got technology disrupting things. So we have to understand, like, we've got to have all hands on deck. So take the other flip side of that. When you look at the criminal justice system, Kentucky incarcerates we incarcerate more than other states at a very high level. High levels of high incarceration rates for low-level, non-criminal, low-level criminal offenses.
Okay.
And what we do within that system is once they're in the system, we have a hard time rehabilitating. So just like the rest of our country, we've not figured out that their time in prison isn't just punitive, it should be rehabilitative. And by the way, we need these populations back at work when they get out. And so our notion, and the research shows time and time again, that access to education, training, or a job is literally the keys to staying out of prison. So if we can, and this falls on us as employers and as a society, if we figure out how do we not just forget this returning citizen population, how do we honor them and get them on a pathway to job, financial freedom, and a career, then the numbers just show time and time again that the opportunity for them to stay out of jail is much greater. And in the system, the state system, not only is it good for that person that served their time, but it's good for the state and what the lift it brings off of our infrastructure to keep that increasing population of inmates. So Kentucky's starting to figure that out. I think our criminal justice cabinet is doing a phenomenal job, and especially in recent years with this. We've got Justice Noble really heading up a lot of exciting efforts and passion. Van Ingram is incredible, and his method of really looking at recovery and really rehabilitating the citizens. We've asked employers to also own our part, because it takes a village. It takes many of us to come at these issues. And we've launched the Second Chance Hiring campaign. And so that is getting employers to sign up and take that pledge that they are a second chance, fair chance employer. They have jobs available. And again, we launched this a couple weeks ago. We weren't sure how many jobs we'd see come through, but just in the past couple weeks, we've seen about 750 positions come in from employers that said, I'm a second chance employer. And that, again, I'm just always so proud of Kentucky's business community. They step up time and time again and do what's right. And this is just another example of that.
That's fantastic. So we've got, just you nailed on a couple things there. So not only are we creating a pipeline of employees that we know we're going to, before too long, we're going to be short of again, we're also relieving the stress that's on the judicial system and the all that, and we're also hopefully eliminating recidivism, or at least diminishing it. And so there's no downside to any of that. So that's excellent news.
Thank you. We're excited about it too. And we've got a lot of state partners that do a lot of work and are kind of guiding us through the way in this space. But you'll see our program get stronger and stronger in the months ahead. And we figured out the role that employers really, really need to play, and that we need to give the support to them to show them this cultural shift, because this is not where we've been, right? It's always been check the box, you're in, you're out. And now we're saying that actually that's not the right move.
Well, I think we're going to learn, if there's anything that COVID did, the silver lining is that it kind of, things that needed to happen already, but we were just kicking the can down the road. Okay, we've realized, okay, that was a mistake. They have to happen now. So, everything from, bringing in second chance employees to finding new ways for people to learn, because let's face it, technology disrupts so fast now. You can't stop learning. Nobody can afford to stop learning. And then, even work from home. Just so everything has changed. So this is, in a way, it's kind of an exciting time. It's a little stressful right now, but it's also exciting because, to your point earlier, what comes out on the other side is going to be different, but I think it has an opportunity to be better.
I agree. And I love your points about, we've been forced into this technological change. I think we've been on the brink of for the last couple years. So that'll be, I think I completely agree with you. It's an exciting time because it's forced us into this mode of change, react, now be proactive so that next time we don't get caught behind. And so it'll be really exciting to see what's ahead. I think it's also, as Kentuckians, we are very good at taking care of our own. And as long as there's examples and guidelines and parameters, when you show people that within Kentucky, they step up, they rise to the challenge time and time again. We've seen this with the Kentucky community, the business community in particular. The last 3 months, the economy completely shut down without warning, right? And what we saw was we've spoken with businesses every day. Our team has been speaking with the governor's team every day, trying to play that in between, going to bat for businesses. And what we see is that renewed spirit of businesses retooling, coming up with PPE, a word we didn't even know what that meant 3 months ago. Yeah. And all of a sudden now production lines, they're experts at creating ventilators and masks and you name it. And Kentucky businesses have stepped up, finding ways, even though it's painful, to keep their employees whole wherever possible. And I think that Kentucky spirit is real. And I think it's special here. Of course, I'm born, raised Kentuckian, but I think it's the same thing when you look of coming out of this, the force of innovation that we've seen, and understanding that all citizens deserve a fair chance and a fair chat at fair chance at economic freedom.
So that's great news. That's exciting. So lots of exciting stuff going on. Now, next we've got Harper coming in. Does she, I didn't exactly think this one out. Does she know how to come in?
I don't know. Harper's really smart. I always say she's actually my boss. So if there's a will, there's a way. Harper usually figures it out. I don't know if she does, Doug. I can call her.
Well, she does.
Oh, wait. So here, I'm trying video and on my phone.
Okay. Now let's keep going. So I assume. Oh, fair enough. So let's talk about the stuff we were going to talk with Harper. So we were going to talk about the Who's Hiring program. So you guys, you had mentioned earlier that you had uploaded already 80,000 jobs. Now you guys did that all manually, correct?
Yeah, sorry, I'm texting. We did, and Harper, and we've got, she really led the way on that effort. She worked with our intern, Zach, who's from UK, and they figured out the system. We just kind of overnight, I was so proud of the Workforce Center team. They retooled. And again, you go back to that night, on Tuesday, second day of schools being shut down in Kentucky. We hear 14,000 more jobs getting lost. I physically fell over my sink.
Sure.
Because you knew that was just the tip of the iceberg, right? I mean, now we're at 750,000 something unemployment claims. And our team just said, what can we do? What do we do? How do we help? And then you kept hearing of these reoccurring industries that were just surging and in need to get us through the pandemic. So we work with the governor's team to say, okay, we know we're in the midst of a shutdown, more coming again, mid-March. Let's collect jobs. You all vet if these jobs are going to be deemed critical, and we'll stay open, and then we'll collect them on a Google form. Employers can fill them out. And all of our staff did this. So they worked with employers, collected all these jobs. I think now we're up to 80,000 positions. We launched the Who's Hiring effort at the end of March. And I think what's been great on top of our team, who I'm always proud of because they always rise to the occasion, just on behalf of Kentucky to do what's right, all of our local communities were doing the same. So you look there in Northern Kentucky Chamber was on it, Louisville Chamber. So we're all feeding these jobs back and forth. And every job we collected out of the Kentucky Chamber was going to the governor's team and getting disseminated to all the dislocated workers. So then when we got the 80,000 mark, we said, okay, great. Now we're doing early releases for returning citizens out of the prison population. They need jobs. Mm-hmm. So let's calculate and figure out who will be a second chance employers. We've been working with Kentucky's ACLU because they're working with those returning citizens right now, just trying to find food, shelter, but then next was jobs. So now they've got all those positions, and we're working with the recovery communities and all the recovery providers to send those jobs out to. So again, on top of staying out of prison, there's also much more likelihood that if you have a connection to a career and meaning, that you're also more likely to stay sober from the substance use disorder.
Excellent. So it sounds like what you're saying is you guys are building the infrastructure. So as you said, when we come out of this, Kentucky's actually prepared to move forward in a sustainable effort. So economically, we had these great pillars of strength before COVID hit. So COVID hits and it's causing the economy to take a nosedive. But because those pillars existed, we know that it's going to come back out quickly. But to your point, we weren't prepared as a community to get people moving from into the workforce in ways that were sustainable. But it sounds to me like you guys are really focused on building those infrastructure, giving people those connections, and using, it sounded like a multitude of resources to prepare so that when we come out of this, we're a different state.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to be caught. And I'm sure that there was some really great work during the last recession. There was a much deeper, longer recession, very different. We didn't just turn that recession off, turn the economy off on that one. But I will give credit to our team. I mean, in the last couple years, all we've done is spend time with employers and dig into what their critical needs are and projecting for the future. And so while they're trying to take care of business and learn how to reopen, we have all those insights, right? Like we know what their critical positions are through the talent pipeline management system. We know who these critical populations are that, again, we as a nation continue to leave behind. So now we're able in this phase of the solution building phase to go after with gusto those populations based on those critical needs.
Gotcha. So it's really exciting. So what else is going on in the state that folks can look forward to? I mean, I know we've got, it sounds like the jobs are going to slowly come back, but what else is happening? Can we expect any of the great shows that the chamber puts on? Are any of those going to be able to show up this year?
We are still taking the temperature test for that.
Yeah.
Of course, we hope so.
Right.
We've been doing a weekly virtual event on restarting Kentucky.
Yep. That's
No
been
one.
good.
Oh yeah. So we've
Yeah.
got. I mean, we've had everything. We've had the governor on a time. Anything that is the pain point of the week during COVID for employers and companies, that's the questions we're working to answer. So I think this week is a continued discussion on childcare and what that looks like. So those are some events we're currently hosting virtually. We are hoping, we've have Kentucky Best Places, we have Kentucky SHRM, we have the Kentucky Business Summit, we've got the Kentucky Workforce Recovery Summit. So we are hopeful that we're going to see some fall openings, but it remains to be seen. Still, we're watching states like Indiana. They've recently allowed larger events to see how that pans out for them, and then also. Just understanding what's safe for Kentuckians too. So relying on the governor and his guidelines to give us those insights and make the best decisions for the business communities and Kentuckians from there.
So, and I think I forgot to mention this, but anybody in the chat room, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in there real quick. I know we're close to the bottom of the hour. And there is one thing I want to mention, Beth, and this is a shameless Ulimi plug, but I do want to let everybody know that we have partnered with you and your workforce development team to automate the who's hiring and to automate the back end for your team, and then give search tools on the front end, so folks can now go in and search for things like based on what part of the state they're in, including second chance employers, different things about employers. We're proud and happy to be a part of that. So thanks for having us in on that.
You all are going to up our game, Doug. We're so excited about Ulimi coming on board with that project and giving us AI that we need. So we've been using a Google form, which has been good. Yep. Right now, I mean, an 80,000 report is a static report that our users are scrolling down.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this in our leadership meeting yesterday, how we're going to do another rollout to reintroduce the tool, because it is a free tool. It's free for employers, free for citizens. We've got it mapped out, going to all the local communities, all of our state leaders, displaced workers, you name it. This is getting focused. And I think just in the last bit, it's had over 21,000 views. So it's a very engaged site. But right now, they're scrolling down 40 pages of jobs.
Right.
So Ulimi to the rescue.
Oh, good.
They're going to make that searchable, and also able that if you are an individual returning to our community from incarceration, you can search by second chance employers. Whether you're somebody that's returning from incarceration or not, you'll be able to search by keywords, key job titles, key companies. So, Doug, we're really pumped about that. So thank you so much for coming on board. We're really, really excited about your support, because I can't think of a more needed tool for Kentucky right now, but it also has got to be easy. So thank you for bringing that to the table. We really appreciate it.
And for those listening to this either live or later, it's Ulimi Hire. And if you want to learn more about that, go to ulimidoes.com. So Beth, we are past the bottom of the hour, so I'm going to let you go. Now, if you're listening in, we do have a third guest. Hopefully she joins us here in just a second. We're going to talk about Vid Expo and what that is and what it means to our local employers. So Beth, thank you so very much for
yes. Thank you so much. Do I just hang up now, Doug?
You can just hang up.
Thank you for having me. We really appreciate you all. Everybody have a great day.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, so we're still live. So let's just keep going here for a little bit longer and see if our guest joins us. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Vid Expo while we're waiting for her to join. So Vid Expo is it's a collaboration between three organizations, one being Ulimi, but Abstract Displays, Spot on Video, and Ulimi. So Carla Ng, who's the CEO of Vid Expo, or she's the CEO of Abstract Displays, was looking. Abstract builds these tremendous, wonderful displays for trade shows. Obviously, with COVID-19 and all trade shows being canceled, that put quite a dent into her business. So she was looking for a way not to just go virtual on a temporary basis, but really extend what an event actually means. And so she was looking for ways to add virtual. Completely did not like the cartoonish Sims type characters. Had rejected that, and so ultimately she reached out to Ulimi, and we got connected, and we started brainstorming, and we came up with the idea of Vid Expo. So manufacturers can have their booths, their exhibits set up right in the abstract displays facility. You can put people inside it. We'll have the camera crews and the staff from Spot On Video there to do professional high-end exhibits and displays. And then using Ulimi event room, virtual events, you can then broadcast that out to your audiences. So far, we've shown this to a couple different, several different areas. So far, it's been materialized as a virtual event or a trade show or a brand event. It's being looked at as a virtual job fair, so a hiring tool. So this is really fascinating. And there's other uses as well, including education and other things as well. So Vid Expo is really exciting, and I don't think she's going to join us. So we will have Carla on in a later show and give you more details about that. So I'm going to bid you farewell and tell everybody have a great week. And one more note, I believe starting next Thursday, I can't recall the date, we're actually going to move Breaking Through the Noise to a Thursday afternoon event. We got some feedback that Tuesday mornings are a little difficult, but we will be here next Tuesday, and then starting next Thursday, we'll kick off the Thursday afternoon Breaking Through the Noise. So until then, everyone have a great week, and thank you so much for attending.